Here's part 1 of your story in about 800 words, written in simple English and third-person style. The Draconian fleet disappeared on Earth. The universe can't understand it. The stars twinkled silently as 500 massive warships moved through space. Each ship was bigger than a small city. Together they made up the Draconian fleet, the most feared military force in the galaxy. Admiral Deho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Flame. His scaled skin gleamed under the lights as he stared at the view screen showing a small blue planet. Earth, he said, his voice deep and cold. Such a simple world. Why do they refuse to join our empire? Officer Hana checked her instruments. Humans are strange, Admiral. They have rejected all diplomatic offers. The Draconians had conquered 74 worlds without losing a single battle. Their reptilian warriors were twice as strong as humans. Their ships carried weapons that could turn oceans into steam. Send the final warning, Deho ordered. Across Earth, all screens suddenly showed the same message. Admiral Deho's face appeared. His yellow eyes narrowed. People of Earth, you have 24 hours to surrender. Accept Draconian rule or be destroyed. There is no third option. In the United Nations Emergency Center, world leaders gathered. They had known this. Day would come. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Ambassador Jiwoo stepped forward. Unlike the others, she didn't look worried. In fact, she was smiling. Send our reply, she said. Minutes later, Admiral Deho received Earth's message. He expected begging or anger. Instead, Jiwoo's calm face appeared on his screen. Draconian fleet, we have received your message. Earth welcomes you to enter our orbit for peaceful talks. We are not afraid. Deho laughed so hard that his officers stared in surprise. They welcome us? How interesting. They will learn fear soon enough. On a space station near Jupiter, representatives from 17 alien civilizations watched the situation. None of them had ever seen a planet stand up to the Draconians. Humans are brave but foolish, said diplomat Taeyong. I have studied Earth culture for years. I don't understand why they aren't afraid. His assistant, scientist Ha Yun, nodded sadly. The Draconians will destroy them. We should send help. Any ship we send would be destroyed too, Taeyong replied. All we can do is watch. Back on his flagship, Admiral Deho gave the order to advance. The massive fleet moved toward Earth, weapons charged and ready. We will make an example of this planet, he told his crew. After today, no one in the galaxy will dare to defy us again. The fleet entered Earth orbit in perfect formation. From space, they could see cities, oceans, and clouds. Targeting computers, locked onto major population centers. Begin the attack, Deho commanded. Officer Hana pressed the fire button. Nothing happened. Systems failure, she reported, checking her screen. Weapons are not responding. Deho frowned. Check all systems. Suddenly, Officer Jun at the sensor station called out, Admiral, I'm detecting strange energy patterns all around us. What kind of defense system is this? Deho demanded. Before anyone could answer, the ship shuddered. Outside the windows, space itself seemed to ripple like water. All ships report the same phenomenon, Hana said, her voice shaking. This isn't in any of our records about Earth defenses. Admiral Deho felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear. Send emergency signals to High Command. Tell them. His words were cut short as reality itself seemed to bend around the flagship. Colors that had no names flowed across the bridge. The crew screamed as their perceptions twisted. In the United Nations Center, Jiwoo watched her screens as the Draconian fleet flickered and then vanished. All 500 ships disappeared at once. Dimensional shift complete, reported Defense Minister Minho. The fleet has entered Pocket Zone 7. Jiwoo nodded calmly. Send the standard message to the Galactic Council. Tell them there was an unfortunate navigational accident. The Draconian fleet has disappeared while orbiting Earth. In space, Taeyong and Haun stared in disbelief at their monitors. One moment the fleet was there, the next it was gone. No explosions, no debris. Just gone. Impossible, Haun whispered. 500 ships can't just disappear. Taeyong shook his head slowly. The council won't believe this, no one will. What are these humans? Back on Earth, children played in parks, people went to work, and life continued as normal. Only a few looked up at the sky, wondering about the strange lights they had seen briefly overhead. Deep within the Pentagon, in a room that officially didn't exist, a small team monitored unusual energy readings coming from what appeared to be empty space. How long will they stay in the pocket dimension? Asked a general. Jiwoo smiled mysteriously. Who knows? Time works differently there. For them, it might feel like forever. The news of the Draconian fleet's disappearance spread across the galaxy faster than light. 500 warships, the pride of the most powerful empire in known space, had simply vanished while orbiting Earth. No explosions, no debris, no distress signals, just gone. This meeting of the Galactic Council will now begin, announced Head Counselor Boram, his voice echoing in the great chamber. Representatives from 200 worlds sat in stunned silence. We must address the Draconian disappearance. Scientist Hayun stepped forward. She had been monitoring Earth when it happened. The data makes no sense, she said, her hands shaking slightly as she displayed holographic charts. One moment they were there, the next they weren't. This breaks all known laws of physics. The Draconian representative, Q1, slammed his scaled fist on the table. Humans have developed a weapon that can destroy our ships without a trace. This is an act of war. We have no evidence of that, Boram replied calmly. We need facts, not accusations. After hours of heated debate, the council voted to send an investigation team to Earth. Senior investigator Jun Ki was chosen to lead. He had solved mysteries across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Choose your team carefully, Boram told him privately. Something strange is happening on Earth, something beyond our understanding. Jun Ki selected experts from 7 different species, weapons specialists, physicists, dimensional theorists, and cultural experts. Last to join was Taeyong, who had studied humans longer than anyone else. They're hiding something, Taeyong said as their ship approached Earth. Humans have always been strange, but this is different. Earth's orbital control gave them permission to land near the United Nations headquarters. When they stepped off their ship, Earth's chief liaison Sunmi was waiting with a smile that seemed too calm for the situation. Welcome to Earth, she said, bowing slightly. We look forward to assisting your investigation. 500 ships disappeared in your orbit, Jun Ki said firmly. This is the most serious incident in recent galactic history. Sunmi's smile never wavered. A terrible tragedy. We have prepared facilities for your team and will provide limited access to relevant areas. Limited access? Weapons specialist Sung Ho asked sharply. We need full access. Earth has its privacy concerns, Sunmi replied, but we will help however we can. For 2 weeks, the team examined orbital data, interviewed Earth officials, and scanned the planet's surface. They found nothing conclusive. Earth representatives answered questions politely but revealed little. Then came the breakthrough. Jun Ki was walking through a park in a small town when a human child approached him. The boy, about 10 years old, looked at Jun Ki's alien features, without fear. Are you looking for the lizard people? The boy asked. Jun Ki crouched down. What lizard people? The ones who got lost in the woods, the boy, Gi-ho, said simply. My grandma says they went where they shouldn't go. Where is that? Jun Ki asked gently. Gi-ho pointed to an ordinary-looking forest at the edge of town. In there, but not the regular forest, the other one that's in the same place. That evening, Jun Ki took his team to scan the forest. Their equipment detected energy patterns unlike anything in their extensive databases. These readings suggest dimensional abnormalities, physicist Do-Yan reported, but they're unlike any we've ever recorded. When they tried to enter the forest, Their equipment failed. 3 scanning drones disappeared just like the Draconian fleet had. We need answers, Junki demanded when they confronted Sunmi with their findings. Sunmi sighed. We hope to avoid this conversation. Please come with me. She led them to a hidden facility beneath the United Nations building. Inside was technology, unlike anything they had seen before. Screens showed multiple overlapping images of Earth, as if several planets existed in the same space. Earth is special, Sunmi explained. It exists in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Always has. That's impossible, Doyun whispered. For you, perhaps, said a new voice. An elderly human named Professor Hyun entered the room. But we evolved here. Our brains developed to perceive these dimensional pockets and avoid them. And the Draconian fleet? Junki asked. They had no such adaptation, Professor Hyun said sadly. They flew straight into a dimensional pocket that humans instinctively avoid. We tried to warn them, but they wouldn't listen. Can they be rescued? Taeyong asked. Professor Hyun and Sunmi exchanged a look. Time works differently in the pockets, Sunmi said carefully. For them, it might already have been thousands of years. As the implications sank in, the team realized the universe would never understand Earth the same way again. The investigation team stood in Professor Hyun's underground laboratory, surrounded by screens showing overlapping images of Earth. Each image looked slightly different, like pages of a book stacked on top of each other. What you're seeing is real, Professor Hyun said. Earth exists in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Scientist Do-Yan shook her head in disbelief. No planet can exist in multiple dimensions. It breaks every law of physics we know. Your laws of physics, Sunmi corrected gently. Not ours. Professor Hyun touched a control panel, and a 3-dimensional model of Earth appeared. But this Earth had strange, colored areas scattered across its surface. These are dimensional pockets, he explained. Places where reality folds, where the barriers between dimensions are thin. The team leaned closer, fascinated and disturbed. Why didn't your people tell the galaxy about this? Junki asked. Sunmi smiled sadly. Would you have believed us? Without proof? We need to see one of these pockets for ourselves, Taeyong said firmly. The next day they traveled to a forest in what humans called North America. It looked ordinary, trees, bushes, birds singing, but their instruments showed strange energy, readings. This is where the Draconian fleet disappeared, Sunmi confirmed, one of the largest pockets on Earth. As they walked closer to the trees, Junki noticed something odd. Whenever they approached a certain area, their human guides subtly changed direction, as if avoiding something invisible. You're doing it. Without even thinking, he said suddenly. Avoiding the pocket. Professor Hyun nodded. Humans evolved alongside these anomalies. Our brains developed special pathways to sense them. Like an extra sense? Do-Yan asked. Exactly. When you feel a chill for no reason, or suddenly feel uncomfortable in a perfectly safe place, those are warning signals. Our ancestors who ignored those feelings disappeared. The team set up special equipment designed to detect dimensional abnormalities. The readings were unlike anything they had ever seen. Amazing, whispered Do-Yan. It's like a hole in reality itself. Now you understand why we never leave our planet undefended, Sunmi said, and why we don't worry much about invasions. Back at the laboratory, Professor Hyun showed them ancient human stories, books about haunted houses, mysterious disappearances, places where time moved differently. These aren't just stories, he explained. They're warnings passed down through generations. Cultural memory of dimensional dangers. You encoded navigation hazards into your mythology, Taeyong realized. Brilliant adaptation. That evening, the team sent their first report to the Galactic Council. Within hours, the response came back. Information impossible. Verify or return. Immediately. They don't believe us, Junki sighed. We need proof they can't ignore. Do-Yan suggested. Professor Hyun considered this. There might be a way. Some pockets are more predictable than others. We might be able to show you a safe one. 3 days later, they stood on a beach at sunset. Nothing seemed unusual, but all the humans maintained a respectful distance from a specific area of sand. "Watch," Professor Hyun said, taking a small drone from his pocket. He flew it toward the empty beach. At first, nothing happened. Then suddenly the drone seemed to stretch, its shape distorting like a reflection in moving water. A moment later, it was gone. "Where did it go?" gasped Shungho. "Somewhere else," Sunmi said simply. "Another layer of reality that occupies the same space." Professor Hyun checked his watch. "Wait for it." 3 minutes later, the drone reappeared. But it was changed. Its metal had aged decades, and its memory banks contained thousands of hours of footage, though it had been gone only minutes. "Moves differently in the pockets," Professor Hyun explained. "Space too." That night, the team stayed in a small coastal town. After dinner, an elderly woman approached their table. "You're looking into the thin places," she said. It wasn't a question. "The what?" Junki asked. "Places where the world is thin, where things get lost." She looked at them with knowing eyes. "My grandfather disappeared when I was a child. Walked into the fog one morning. Came back 3 days later, but he had lived a lifetime somewhere else. His hair was white, and he spoke languages no one had ever heard." As she walked away, the team members looked at each other, finally understanding the true nature of Earth. Not just a planet, but a gateway to unknown realms that had shaped human evolution in ways no other species could comprehend. The report from Earth turned the Galactic Council upside down. The chamber erupted in shouting as representatives argued about the impossible findings. Some called it human trickery, others demanded immediate quarantine of the entire solar system. "Order," shouted Head Counselor Boram, pounding his gavel. "We must approach this scientifically." Xenobiologist Yoonji stood to address the council. Her team had spent weeks analyzing the data from Earth. "The evidence is clear," she said firmly. "Earth is not just a planet. It's a dimensional nexus point unlike anything we've discovered before." News spread across the galaxy at light speed. Earth, once considered an unremarkable world on the outer edge of the Milky Way, suddenly became the most talked-about planet, in 3 spiral arms. Research ships from dozens of worlds raced toward the Sol system. The Council had to establish an orbital traffic control system to prevent accidents as curious scientists arrived in droves. "No one may land without permission," Boram declared. "Earth is now classified as a dimensional anomaly zone." On Earth, life continued mostly as normal. Humans went about their daily routines, though many found the sudden alien interest amusing. "We've always known we were special," Sunmi told reporters. "We just didn't know how special until others noticed." Professor Hyun and his team worked with scientists from across the galaxy, explaining Earth's dimensional nature. Many alien scientists struggled to understand. "You must stop thinking of reality as fixed," Professor Hyun explained patiently. "Think of it as a book with many pages all occupying the same space." Meanwhile, a small team of human specialists prepared for something never attempted before, a rescue mission into a dimensional pocket. "We can't guarantee success," warned Na-young, the team leader. "But we might be able to retrieve at least one Draconian ship." The mission preparations took weeks. Special suits were designed to help the team navigate the dimensional pocket. Special anchors would keep them connected to normal space. The day of the mission arrived. 6 humans stood at the edge of the forest where the Draconian fleet had disappeared. Representatives from the Galactic Council watched from a safe distance. "Remember," Na-young told her team, "time works differently in there. What feels like hours to us might be years inside. Stay together." They stepped forward into seemingly empty air and vanished. Outside, the waiting crowd held their breath. Minutes ticked by. Then hours. Some began to fear the rescue team was lost too. After 9 hours, the air shimmered. The rescue team reappeared, but they weren't alone. Behind them floated a small Draconian scout ship. The team looked exhausted but triumphant. "Success," Na-young reported. But it was complicated. The Draconian ship's hull showed signs of extreme age. Metal that should have been smooth was pitted and worn, as if it had endured centuries of use. When the ship's hatch opened, the waiting medical team rushed forward. The Draconians inside were alive but changed. Their scales had faded to pale, gray. Their eyes had a distant, haunted look. Commander Sang-min, once a fierce Draconian officer, stepped shakily onto Earth soil. He looked at the sky as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "How long?" he asked, his voice raspy from disuse. "You've been gone 3 weeks," Sunmi told him gently. Sang-min closed his eyes. "For us it was 1,000 years. We lived entire lives in the labyrinth between worlds." Later, in a secure medical facility, Sang-min described their experience. The dimensional pocket contained landscapes that defied description. Time stretched and compressed randomly. The crew had aged, had children, built settlements, developed new technologies, all while trying to find a way home. "We thought we were gods," he whispered, "until we met the real inhabitants of that realm." The Galactic Council representatives listened in stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about physics, about reality itself, needed to be rewritten. "Can others learn to navigate these pockets?" asked Counselor Borum. Professor Hyun nodded slowly. "Perhaps. But the human brain evolved special structures over millions of years. Your minds might not be compatible with the cognitive frameworks required." That night, scientists from 100 worlds looked up at the stars with new eyes, wondering what other secrets the universe might be hiding in plain sight. 5 years passed since the Draconian fleet's disappearance. Earth became the center of a scientific revolution that changed everything in the galaxy. The small blue planet, once considered unremarkable, was now the most important world in known space. In the Grand Hall of the Galactic Science Academy, Professor Hyun received the highest honor in the galaxy, the Cosmic Understanding Medal. His work explaining Earth's dimensional nature had created an entirely new field of physics. "We are all still students," he said humbly in his acceptance speech. "The universe has many more secrets to share. All across the galaxy, beings from thousands of worlds studied the new dimensional science. Special schools opened where humans taught their unique way of perceiving reality's hidden layers. The human brain isn't more advanced," explained teacher Jimin to her class of alien students. "It's just different. We evolved alongside dimensional anomalies, so we learned to sense them. Not everyone could learn. Many species found their minds, simply couldn't grasp the concepts. Others developed terrible headaches when trying the exercises. But those who succeeded gained amazing new abilities. The biggest surprise came from the Draconians. Once the most feared warriors in space, the experience of being lost in a dimensional pocket had changed them forever. Commander Sang-min, who had spent a subjective millennium in the pocket dimension, started a new philosophical movement. He called it the way between worlds. "War is meaningless when you understand that reality itself is an illusion," he taught. "We fought because we only saw one layer of existence." The Draconian Emperor Jinho, once known for his cruelty, made a historic journey to Earth. It was the first time in 1,000 years that a Draconian ruler had visited another world in peace. The signing ceremony took place in a simple garden. Emperor Jinho and Earth's representatives sat under blooming cherry trees as they signed the first peace treaty in Draconian history. "We were wrong about humans," Jinho admitted. "We thought they were weak because they preferred peace. Now, we understand they simply saw more of reality than we did." The greatest change came in space travel. For millennia, ships had used hyperspace engines to travel faster than light. But human dimensional navigators discovered shortcuts through reality itself. "Think of space as a piece of paper," explained engineer Young-ho to a group of alien ship designers. "Traditional engines move across the paper, but if you fold the paper, you can connect distant points directly." The first ship using the new dimensional fold drive traveled from Earth to Alpha Centauri in 3 seconds. The journey had previously taken weeks. Within months, ships across the galaxy were being retrofitted with the new technology. Routes that once took years to complete now finished in days. The galaxy suddenly became much smaller. Not all changes were technological. Many beings across the galaxy began to question their understanding of reality itself. If Earth exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously, Perhaps everything does, suggested philosopher Kyung-Soo, whose books became bestsellers on thousands of worlds. Perhaps we simply haven't evolved to see it. On quiet nights in certain places on Earth, people sometimes saw strange lights in the sky, the ghostly outlines of ships that weren't quite there, echoes of the missing Draconian fleet, trapped between dimensions. Scientists established special research stations near these sightings. They hoped someday to rescue the remaining ships. But the task was immensely complex. We can see them sometimes, explained researcher Na-young, but reaching them is another matter. They exist partly in our world and partly in others. As humans ventured out into the galaxy in greater numbers, other species watched them with new respect and a touch of fear. They moved confidently through areas that made others uncomfortable, as if they could see dangers invisible to everyone else. They don't just visit other worlds, one alien observer noted. They visit other realities without even realizing it. The old galactic powers adjusted to the new order. Earth, once a small player on the galactic stage, now stood at the center of everything. Not because of military might or economic power, but because humans had evolved in an impossible place, a world that existed in many worlds at once.